Hi everyone, it's Alisa Tilsner from Australia. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator and I have been a demonstrator for just over 13 years now. Today we're going to be creating this card here, which is actually based on one from our quarterly magazine called Stampin' Success that we get, as I said, every quarter, and it's full of card ideas, inspiration, a little bit of business topics. So this is one, it's quite rare that I look through the magazine and I have nearly everything that they've used on the card. So I was quite happy to be able to produce this one. So this is what we made yesterday at a group that we have here in my town called Link and Learn. It's a group where we have volunteers teaching all types of crafts, and I teach the card making. So I'm going to do the card that I'm going to do today a little bit differently, and I hope I've got everything that I require. So we're going to start with using the To a Wild Rose. I keep just calling it Wild Rose, but it's To a Wild Rose. It's a photopolymer stamp set, and it's got 13 stamps in the set. I'm also going to be using the Itty Bitty Birthdays stamp set, which if you've watched any of my recent videos, you know that I absolutely adore this stamp set. If you don't have it, I suggest you get it. and of course the matching dies we'll be using for the wild roses, and I'm using the Subtles embossing folder, so I'm switching that one up from the one that I used yesterday as well. So I have done a fair bit of stuff off camera, and so let's get started. I'm just thinking, where am I going to start? Which, you would think that I would know that already. So let's start with our rose. Now, the one that I did yesterday, you'll notice that it's a three-step stamp. So we've got the 1, 2, 3. Yesterday when I made my card, we only did the 2 steps. So we did this one and this one here. And for the leaves, we just did this one and this one here. So but for today, I am going to show you all 3 and show you how I put them together. Now, when you look at them, sometimes you think, oh, they're a bit tricky to get lined up. But if you look at the way that they're placed on the cover, get you into screen, you'll see that they are lined up in the cover. So I was going from this point here yesterday because I found that one the easiest one to find. So if you can try and find a point on the rose, they will line up perfectly. So I also started yesterday with the middle stamp set first. The middle stamp. So let's have a crack at getting that. See, and this is my point that I will be going from up here. So I'll put that down. My blocks, I have to use my block on a diagonal. Now the colours that I am using for the rose are Daffodil Delight and Crushed Curry. I'm using a really nice clean piece of grid paper, so I'm going to do my stamping off onto some copy paper because my grid paper doesn't tend to last long. And of course, when we're doing videos, we like to have clean grid paper, but I find it a waste to go through so much of the grid paper. Now, some of my ink pads are still the old version, so this one is an old linen one. I haven't replaced too many of them. So for this one, I'm just going to lay it down first. Excuse me if my head gets in the way. Actually, I'm going to turn my card this way. So I'm just going to pop that down. That one's at full strength. I'll let that all soak in. I should perhaps be using a Stampin' Mat underneath this to give it a little bit more oomph. Now, I've got everything stacked up where I need it, and of course I've got it all stacked up on top of my stamp cleaning chamois. My Stampin' Chamois doesn't look so clean anymore, but I tell you what, it does a great job of getting your stamps clean. Okay, so I can peel that one off. So the next one that I'm going to put down is the number, well, I don't know whether it's the number 3 stamp or the number 1 stamp, but it's the one that is a bit more photorealistic. So I'm just going to ink that one up again. And for this one, I am going to, so rather than have to have 3 colours of yellow, I'm actually just going to stamp that one off and then stamp it over the top. And I'm trying to do it where I don't have to get my head in the camera. And then we're just going to pop that one straight on top. So gorgeous. Actually, I'm going to need my blocks again, so excuse me, I do have to clean my stamps. Otherwise, I will end up in a big mess. So I do have to put them away as I'm going. Okay, and then the final one is our outline. And I'll be using the crushed curry for the outline. Okay, and then just line them up again, doing the best I can without getting my head in the way. Of course, if you are doing this at home, you can lean right over and not have to worry about that. Voila! Perfect. Almost perfect. Not quite, but good enough. And then we're going to, I'll just quickly pop them away. I'm not going to be too pedantic. Normally I like to line everything up again. I know that's a little bit silly. But then we need to get out there's a little center here of the flower. Oh, that's a bit silly, isn't it? I've already got all my stamps out. So we just need this one here. And we're going to use soft suede for the insert, for the center of the flower. So we just pop that straight over the top. Okay, and then we just need to cut that out with your matching die on your Big Shot, which I have already done, but I didn't actually stamp my center. So I will do that right now. There we go. Now, we're going to do the same process with our leaves. And you know what? I have done the leaves off camera, so I might just stick with the ones that I've got. These ones are, I'll show you though, these ones are the leaves. So I did exactly the same process. I stamped this one here first, and I did that one in Granny Apple Green. Then I did this one here second, and I stamped off, and then I stamped over the top, and then I did this one here in Garden Green, and they resulted in, and you'll need two of them, so that resulted in this look here. But I can get my other one. So you'll need two of them and your flower. Okay, that one can stay on there. Okay, so for the card base, I have used the Soft Subtles, I think it's called Soft Subtles, or I think it's just called Subtle. No, it's just called the Subtle Dynamic Embossing Folder for the base this time, instead of the one that I used yesterday, which had dots on it. Okay, now the thing that I'm going to do a little bit differently for this card here is I'm going to actually do a little bit of sponging with some Pool Party on top. Well, it's not sponging because I'm not going to use a sponge. I'm actually going to use one of my makeup brushes that I have. Just make sure we're still going nicely. Yep. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of Pool Party, not over the whole lot, but just across the middle here. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of my colour, and starting off and coming on, I'm just going to pop a really light background of Pool Party. So these brushes, I just picked them up at Kmart. They're just a makeup brush. I got three in the sets, 3 different sizes, and I think they only cost me about 12 Australian dollars for the 3. I've got 2 more. So the small ones are great for when you're using stencils and you're sponging over stencils. So I'll just do one more pass over. But they are a super fine brush with hairs on them, not like a sponge at all. There we go. I think that'll, actually let me just swing that around and even that up on the other side a little bit. Now, what you could do also is flick some water over the top, but I'm just going to leave that as it is, just so that it's nice and soft. And I will clean that up a little bit later. Okay, so what we're going to do next is just adhere. Now, and I am going to be running out of my snail very shortly. I am going to put a fair bit of snail on because we're going over a textured surface, I definitely want my cardstock to stick. So I'm just going to pop that, line that up with the top. I cut my cardstock a smidge smaller because I find that when you run your base cardstock through your Big Shot with an embossing folder, it shrinks a little bit. Okay, so next I also have one of the die pieces that is in the Wild Roses die set, and so I'm just going to adhere that down. What will I do? I might do this a little bit differently actually. Oops, I need some dimensionals. Right. We actually have some fun new dimensionals coming up in the holiday catalogue that will be released in September, and I've got them right beside me. I've never seen them before, so I thought I'd show you them. They're black Stampin' Dimensionals, so if you're using your dark cardstock, we now have black, well, we will be having black dimensionals, which I've never heard of such things, so either I'm living behind a rock, but yeah, I didn't know that such things existed. Oh, I'm going to be really naughty. I'm going to put more on here than what I perhaps need. So, whoops, can never get these little, it's cold here and the backings are sticking to my fingers. If I can even get the backings off. There we go. So I'm just going to pop that one up. Okay, so for my two, oh, I didn't think of that very carefully, did I? I shouldn't have put them in those positions. Because now I'm struggling. I'm going to have to snip a little bit of my leaf, I think. Right. Okay, wish me luck. No, I have to snip a bit more. Actually, I think I'll just leave it like that. So you can adhere them on. So I'm generally really good when it comes to placing my dimensionals, but I didn't actually think about that at the moment. Normally I try and keep them in the center a little bit more, but that was not good. Okay, so we're going to pop that down, and I'm going to have to snip a little bit off of that as well, I think. There we go, that one can fit in there. Slip them under. That's okay. It's popping out a little bit, but that's fine. Just sticks out a little bit there. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is be mindful of where I place my rose. So I am going to pop the dimensionals in the middle. I remembered with the rose, but not with the other one. Okay, so we're going to pop that over the top. Which way would I like it to be? Okay, and then the next thing I've got, which is also from the Wild Roses dies, is I've cut out two leaves and two little flowers. Now these are from Granny Apple Green and this one's Petal Pink. So I'm just going to pop them under my rose and on top of, so under my rose and on top of my frame. And I usually only put a little bit on the stem, oops, because I like to have these a little bit free so that they're not stuck down completely. And I'll stick that one on the other side. And then these can go over the top as well. Down a little bit more over here. Okay, we are getting close to being finished, but now we need a sentiment. Oops, I'm losing myself here. So now we need a bit of a sentiment, and that's where I will be using, there's some great sentiments in the wild rose, a wild rose, which I've misplaced. So there are some great sentiments on here. So we've got, you could do blessed to be your friend, blessed and grateful to know you, blessed to know you. True friendship is one of God's greatest gifts, and also hello. So the last time when I made these yesterday, I did the word hello and then I put happy birthday, but this time I'm just going to do happy birthday. I tend to use a lot of birthday cards. I send birthday cards out to all my team members each month, so I go through quite a few of them. So I'm just going to stamp this one in the soft suede so that it matches with the center of my flower, and we'll tie all of that together. Can I get in there? No. Normally I have little scraps around which are really handy for, but I don't at the moment. Now I need a trimmer. Where have I put that? So snip that off. And I like to have my sentiments trimmed fairly tight as well. I tend to find that I like to have, a lot of things going on with my card and then just a small sentiment rather than a large sentiment. And I'm just going to use, this punch is actually retired, but it's there's a few that you just can't let go of, and this is one of them. So really handy for flagging, putting V's. If you don't have one, just do it by hand. Okay, and the next bit is to use some of this gorgeous petal pink ribbon. It is a organdy striped ribbon, and I just want it to be just longer than my sentiment. Just fix that up again. I can always cut it off, but if I cut it too small, I can't make it bigger. So this is really pretty, and this will tie in with the petal pink that I have on my card already. Those little flowers that we cut out. Now, my original one was quite bigger. My sentiment was quite bigger, so I do have more ribbon than I actually need. I wonder if I can just cut. I wonder if it'll fray. It might fray. Maybe I'll just have a little bit more ribbon than originally planned. There we go. Maybe I can just cut that off a little bit. Whoops, I'm fraying it. All right. Okay, so we are getting close to be done. So now I can actually see a little bit more of my flower, which I really like. And I originally stuck this one up with dimensionals, but I am going to attempt to stick this one flat because I've got so much height going on in my card already, because I stuck the frame up rather than placing it down. So I'll try and keep it balanced. I'm just going to pop that down there. Whoops, a little lumpy and bumpy under there. Okay, and then I have a piece of white baker's twine, and I'm going to tie this into a bow. So I just go around like that, and then keeping my finger in the center, I just pull the tails until I get that nice shape going on that I want. There we go. And I find the best way to stick this down is with a glue dot. So when I find them, they're tricky little things. So I'll just normally grab one and stick it to my card. Sometimes they're a little bit big, so I will fold them, try and fold them over a little bit when they want to stick. Try and fold them over just a wee bit, and then I can stick my bow. Whoops, that's not gonna, I might have to raise that up after all. We'll see how we go. Hopefully it won't fall off. It'll be a little bit ordinary receiving your birthday card and not having an actual happy birthday on it. And then one final last thing, because, you know, we've got some embellishments going on, but we don't have any bling, and I still class sequins as bling. And these ones are great because I do believe that there is a nice, there's actually a nice little pink one in here that we can use to tie everything in together as well. So odd numbers are great. I think I've got some smaller ones in here. And one more small one. So I'm going to use 5. I think that's the right colour. Let's put him up there. Oh, I need you. Need you. My nib's falling out and I need a pair of scissors. Alright, this is like surgical stuff. Okay, so pick one up, put a little bit of glue down, stick it on and hold it for 2 seconds. So in my Stampin' Up team, there are nearly 150 of us. So if you are watching this and you're thinking, you know, I'm already a crafter and I live in Australia and my crafting wish list is way, way long, or I'm just getting into crafting and I'm really enjoying it, or if you think you might like to do what I do, then get in touch with me and we would love to have you join our team. We have actually got a joining special at the moment, which I can tell you about. If not, I would love to have you as a customer as well. So all these items that I've used today you can actually purchase from my online store, and I have some great promotions going on my own blog, which you can check out as well. So there we go, there is my card. I quite like the blue behind it. I'll bring in the one that I did yesterday. Sort of lifts it up and fills it up a little bit more. And I've done the 3-step over here as opposed to the 2-step, and my sentiment is a little bit shorter so that you can see more of the flower. So I'm quite liking the one that I did today. Oh, and my leaves here I stamped on the actual card rather than stamping and cutting them out. And another one that we did yesterday, I actually did a different colour and reversed them, so I had the petal pink base and a petal pink flower and just did the opposites, and some ruched seam binding ribbon, I should say. So there we go. Thank you very much for joining me. If you liked my videos, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.